Are you ready for today's summit? Mind and body connection with other beautiful speakers today. And I'm very excited because we are now number one bestseller on different categories in US and Canada for PTSD Compass. Be with us till the end. We're going to have exciting talks today. Hello, everyone. Beautiful day. Oh, let me unmute everybody here. And I'm very blessed to have these beautiful speakers here. All of them are experts in their own field, and we're gonna get into it and talk about mind-body connection, because I know in PTSD it's very, very important to know how mental health can affect our overall health, because we are not be separated from our body. We are mind, body, and spirit. So first of all, we're going to go through all of these amazing speakers one by one, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Deborah Jensen. She was in my summit last time, and thank you so much for being here again. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm Deborah Jensen, and I am a holistic mind, body, energy coach. And I got into this particular arena because a long time ago I was in a severe car accident, and from which I was not expected to recover at all. Some of the doctors basically said that my life was over and I should accept that. And I was 28 years old, so that was a little that was a little rough to accept. And that actually started my journey because I had to find a way to be able to come back, literally, to stay on the planet and to live through and to recover from the injuries that I had sustained. And so I began to learn all of these tools. And if you can imagine, in 1979, there were two young doctors who came to me and said, "You're spending all your money and we don't have the answers because I was so badly injured. And we want you to start studying alternatives." Well, I didn't even know what an alternative was at that point, but that's exactly what I did. And
so, sorry. First, we go through everybody for 1-2 sentence introduction, and we're gonna get back here.
Great.
So then we have Gwyn Morasko here. Gwyn actually is aerospace, right? Aerospace scientist, rocket scientist.
Yes.
And right now she's doing a holistic health coach. I'm really amazed how you could move from that scientific field to this health coach field.
Well, I was a goal setter from young age. At 8 years old, I wrote down that I was going to work with NASA on the space program. And so I always set hard and high goals and just became a workaholic. And over those years of being a workaholic, there was more and more stress and traveling 3 weeks a month and running $300 million programs. The stress and the overwhelm got to me. And that's when I started studying how to overcome my chronic migraines and some chronic fatigue. And that's how I got into holistic health coaching. And in 2015, I had a turning point that said, okay, I need to step away from the high management system and go into my health coaching. And in 2018, I left aerospace for good. And now I'm a certified high performance coach and a holistic health coach.
Wow. I'm very amazed. Actually, I'm a software engineer as well. So I understand your situation, how you could move from engineering field to something else like health coaching. That's
Yes.
understandable.
And I specialize in chronic migraines because one of the things I
Wow.
found is that a lot of high achievers have migraines.
Oh, really? So
Yes.
we have to talk about this.
Yes.
Now we have Manon Bulliger, Dr. Manon Bulliger. She's my absolute favorite. We had so many talks together, and she actually is founder of Bowen Therapy, Bowen College, right? And she is also PTSD Compass author. So she contributed in my two books, Naturally Conceived, and this one, PTSD Compass author. She is, and I'm very excited and very, very blessed to have you here again. Oh, I think you need to unmute yourself. I can't do it here.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was going to say, thank you for that introduction. And I'm really thrilled to be here and always discover amazing guests that you invite to all your summits. So I'm thrilled to be here. And my background, I'm a naturopathic physician in BC for the last 30 years. And like you said, I'm the founder and CEO of Bowen College, which is a gentle pain elimination therapy. With definitely combining mind body in this therapy. It's not a mechanical therapy. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now we have Jeannine. Yeah, she is amazing. She's an author as well, and her work is most about the triggers and how we can confront with triggers. And she's also Ayurvedic practitioner, right? Am I pronounced it correctly?
Yep, Ayurveda. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me some time to learn it because it's difficult to pronounce. But I'm very surprised to see how many alternative way, I'm not saying alternative, comprehensive way we have for healing. Is not only medication. And I'm also learning so many things from you guys, especially for Ayurvedic. And this is an amazing field. I think it takes like 7 years to get the PhD in this area or doctorate.
A doctorate. Yeah.
And it's very similar to TCM, Chinese medicine. And these days I'm researching about this field as well to see how it can help PTSD and also overall health.
Thank you for that introduction. So I have been in the alternative health and wellness field for 18 years. I just published my book, and I'm about to publish the audiobook for Abundance Beyond Trauma. So my specialty is more for PTSD and trauma, looking at triggers. How do we face our triggers, examine them, and overcome them and heal them? So I created what's called the Adhere process. And so I use that process to guide clients on how to get through their triggers so that they can become more whole and integrate with their heart and mind, because usually what happens with trauma is there's a disconnect that happens. So helping that connection form again. And so I'm in my last year of my doctorate program for Ayurveda, and my dissertation will actually be on bringing that Adhere process into the Ayurvedic community and showing how over a 3-month span, one can actually improve tremendously their PTSD symptoms and other, adverse life experience symptoms.
Thank you so much, Jeannine. And I just mentioned Jeannine is also part of the book PTSD Compass. She has a topic about triggers, right?
Yeah.
And I really wish you guys can actually read this book, because it's really amazing when you can combine these different expertise inside the book. Now I think we go to Sarah before she disconnect again. Are you here, Sarah? Oh, she's gone. Okay, let's go to Linda. When Sarah come back, we can come back there again. Linda again. Linda is a PTSD Compass author. She has a separate chapter in the book. And what happened yesterday, I had her in a call because she talked about two different topics in the book. One of them is about the ADHD, and one of them is about pregnancy loss and how she can help early parenting to recover from their loss. Thank you so much for being here again, Linda.
It's my pleasure, Antia. Thank you for having me. It's always great to be amongst all these specialists that you bring on board. It's exciting. Always new learning. So my background is in clinical psychology. I was trained in Sydney and had a private practice there and worked in a few hospitals as well. And I've been in the US since 2019, and I'm now a coach, early parenting coach, rather than clinical psychologist here. My specialty is in early parenting, mainly on infant mental health and the emotional well-being of parents. So helping them regulate so that they can have better attachment relationships. At present, I'm involved in or been asked to be part of a prenatal bonding BA pioneer group, which is very exciting because there's only a small number of us, 11 of us, who are training to teach parents in pregnancy how to connect deep with themselves, their unconscious and conscious minds, to heal unresolved trauma or any grief that they may be sitting with in order to connect deeply with their babies. So we have a number of baby sessions where we teach them to connect and talk with their babies in uterus. And the studies on this is phenomenal. 8,000 women studied. Less than 1% had postnatal depression, anxiety, and babies were very healthy, sleeping, feeding regularly, normally, without any distress or complications, and just overall beautiful relationships between members of the family, especially the mothers and their infants. So I'm excited to be here because this is a new area. This prenatal bonding particular program is new for me, but it awakened my awareness of why I actually do what I do by going back into my own birth experience, my own pregnancy experience, and my early parenting.
Beautiful.
It's just beautiful work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. So now before we go through any speaker, I just have a few second break and we come back again here. Please subscribe to Pontal Calhor Transition channel to get the latest interviews and order my book PTSD Compass through Amazon. How to confront PTSD and navigate trauma to triumph. All right, now we go to Dr. Manon Bulliger, and I'm going to have some question from her, how PTSD can affect your overall health. Because what I know about her new course I got, the Mind and Body Reset, I love one sentence you talk about being on your own. You said, I don't remember exact sentence, but you said, I can rely on my foot and on the ground by seeing the sky or something like this. Do you remember what was it?
Usually I'm in a bit of a download state, so I'm not always I'm not aware of what it's not. Is this loving to me? Right? That's not the sentence.
Yeah, I will find it and talk about it because you talk about your. I'm just telling you why I love her so much, because she actually could conquer MS and cancer stage 4, and this is so amazing. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, that should be something in our body that we not consider as as a healing power, and we have to actually go and dig into it. Why PTSD and post trauma can affect so much, and why people are very dependent on medication. How can we believe in ourselves?
Right. Well, let me address that on the flip more.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
am I
yeah,
muted?
go ahead.
I'm
No,
good.
no, no, go ahead.
Yeah. We tend to look, first of all, we diagnose certain things and then we can say, oh, well, this is clearly PTSD. And then people can say, oh, I have that. And then we look for therapy. So that's commonly the way it works. My experience is the other way around. So I thought I would actually talk about that because it's not that common. So because one of the works I do is Bowen therapy, we work with the body, and through allowing the body to realign, so much of the inner stress and the PTSD that people have kept in their body comes to the surface. So when I say I do upside down therapy, which is why I call it not mind body, but body mind, we all know it's all the same. We are just one. But I think there's a lack of understanding how much our body holds trauma, and we're unconscious. It's like the body is the portal of the unconscious. And when you allow the body to release stress, it could be physiological stress, structural stress, it doesn't matter. That level of additional flow brings up often the state that that one experienced. So I'll give you an example, because otherwise it's all just crazy stuff, right? But and it's actually what got me into it, because I was already a naturopathic doctor, and I had lots of experience already with homeopathy, because I love that way of understanding the states and our uniqueness in this world. But what happened is I had I volunteered because I had this knee issue. So in my whole education as a naturopath, I could never have an acupuncture needle. I couldn't have massage. No one could touch my knees, for example, right? So I was like, I was aware, but I had no idea what happened. And during the release of this treatment, what happened is I had a massive flashback, and I found myself in a blue room. It was my childhood blue room. And I was in a crib looking up at this like airplane mobile above, twirling above. And I found myself like agonizing and screaming at the top of my lung because I was so frustrated. And then in my mind's eye, I saw that both my feet were held apart by this metal bar, and I had two little white shoes. So what was happening is I couldn't turn, right? So I was sleeping with these. Now, this is a debunked theory, but at the time it was for a pronation correction. So if my feet were in, this was going to force them out, right? Modern medicine. So anyway, and what that did is I had no recollection of this. I didn't know anything about this, but my body held the memory. And so all of the mental, emotional state of frustration, leaving the child cry, that was also that era where, I forget his name, who said you should let your kid cry because it helps, strengthen their personality or whatever. Dr. Spock, that's who it was. So you have that, plus you have structural issues that you're unaware of. And all this came out. And so at the end of this treatment, the person who did it was not trained in mind body at all. They were functional therapists. But my background was very much trained in all of this. So I was having my own experience, and I went, after crying and going through it, I phoned my mom and I said, hey, do I have such a thing? Are these white shoes, they were in my mind's eye, are they real? And she said, oh yeah, I've kept them for you. And it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. And so I learned at that point that through work through the body, we can tap into the subconscious. And so when I moved and opened up my practice as a naturopath in Nova Scotia, the way the universe works, I ended up having lots of people that had PTSD, that had other mental emotional issues, that were seeing therapists, that were in group counseling, that were doing, at the time it was still very popular to do that hitting pillow thing, to get your emotions out. And so I was seeing them and just doing this work. And then it's like their mind and body connected in a way that they got answers from their own unconscious becoming conscious and merging, and then of course there's this therapy part. It's like you don't leave a person and say, oh, okay, good for you, so you had incest or whatever. Of course you've got to manage that and deal with all of this as well, but it's the power of the body, how incredible the body actually is and heals. And it's also a portal when sometimes trying to get in through the mind is not possible for some people. So that's why I was excited when you said, can you speak of PTSD? I said, oh, absolutely, because it's another angle in, is through the body. Anyway, I don't want to take more time, but I thought I'd
Manon, I found that sentence in the book.
Oh, okay, what was
I
it?
added in the book, I can support myself by taking time to reconnect to the sunrise and the moon and to stand on the grass and feel the earth.
Okay.
I cried when I read this sentence because it really connected to my heart.
Yeah.
And I had some issues as well. Like everybody has its own PTSD or trauma and healing. Like I had the asthma attack. I thought, oh, I'm okay after 2 years. And that was because I really needed my mom to be here. I needed her support and I had so much on my plate, and then as soon as she came here, I was okay. You see how much support means to you, how much love means to you, but at the same time, you can't rely on people to help you go through this.
Right.
You have to connect to yourself, and you say sunrise and moon and stand on the grass. And that one really, really talked to me.
Yeah. No, and I think you raised another really good point, is that somewhere in there, in this journey, we must go into our own intuitive, what works for us, what supports us, and for me, that was MS. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to need support from elsewhere if I get, worse, and etc. And then that's where I had that epiphany, is like, okay, I have the earth, I can stand. Now I understand there's more to the earth, but it was just to take that time to really acknowledge just how much we really have, and to take the time for ourselves of it. So
Yes.
I totally get why how you're related.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to get back to you again, Manon. Now we have Sarah Allen.
Hi there.
Did she come back?
Oh my
She's not-
gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm at the beach right now celebrating my grandmother's 90th birthday. So the Wi-Fi and trying to figure it out has been a little spotty. But yeah, I'm a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist. I'm an energetic healer. I like to work with a lot of different components with crystals and sound therapy. It's all about frequency and raising the vibration. higher our vibration is, the less we're holding on to these lower dense emotions and traumas. So I started my journey back in 2014 and completed a 4-year master's program in integrative medicine. So we learned all of the biomed in addition to the Eastern medicine. And I just was, I've always been very passionate about the psycho-emotional traumas. I do believe that our bodies are a message board, and they're basically telling us what's going on a much deeper level. And we have these stored traumas, all the way from birth. And if we don't dig deeper and address them, and we're just chasing the symptoms, then it's just going to keep, basically telling us that there's something we need to put our focus and our energy on. So
I'm going to talk about energy healing and acupuncture at the same time.
sure.
But let's go back to others and do the circle, and I'm coming back to you. Hopefully you are still here.
Yes, I think I'm good now.
Yeah, good. Okay, now we're gonna go to Gwyn. So she has a very amazing biography. She's a rocket scientist and aerospace scientist as well, engineer. And I asked her, how did you move to be a certified holistic health coach? And this happening actually to me as well. I'm not a rocket scientist, I'm engineer, software engineer, but coming back to health, come back to what you need for your body, right? When something happened to you, you have to recover from it and then dig into it, and then, oh, I'm very interested, I'm going to change it. Then you change from your scientific background to health. So welcome again. And you can actually talk about why you chose this field, health coaching.
Well, thank you for having me. And I think migraines were a part of my life for 3 decades, maybe more. But I also knew that it was wrong as a woman to look weak. So I continued. And this is where I was saying that high achieving people tend to have more migraines because we pretend not to have them and we hold in the stress, and it's kind of a vicious cycle. So I continued on my rocket scientist path, but I moved into corporate management pretty early. And so I was running huge programs for space station or stealth bombers or zero pollution automobiles. And what happened is I became more and more required to be at work, and I put more and more of my life into it and less of a personal life because I had to be on all the time. And I noticed the health was deteriorating. And in the 90s, especially, that's where it was really the worst. And I spent over $100,000 over 10 years searching for what is causing this chronic pain and the chronic fatigue. And as a scientist, I went from doctor to doctor and specialist to specialist. And so the science and the holistic health kind of merged. And I found that the alternative healing is what was helping me, and Western medicine wasn't. And in my 40s is when it really started solidifying that I needed to do all holistic. And so it was I'm trying to think what year it was. It was 2012 that I actually became a certified holistic health coach, but I only did it kind of on the side. And it was a side thing. And I kept helping people on the weekends and at night and phone. But it was 2015 when I had worked from home for 11 years, and I was able, because of my holistic healing of staying away from toxins and environment and doing more holistic energy healing for myself, I felt great for 11 years. And then in 2015, I took a position, another leadership position that required me to be at work. And I had massive daily migraines again. And I realized this was the turning point. I could not be in a toxic building, and I couldn't be around the toxic management structure. And this is where the mind-body connection kind of clicked in. And I decided my health was much more important than the corporate title. So I left management. I took a position that allowed me to work from home 100% of the time. And I loved it, but it became clear to me that I wanted to do this full time and help other people, especially women, avoid that life of high achievement linked with pretending that you weren't in pain. And so that's how I shifted, as I still like to work with high achieving people, or high achieving ambitious people. They don't have to actually have achieved anything, but they have the mindset. So it's the mind body connection. And I saw that connection of, and I learned also through science and research that it tends to be higher intelligent people that have more migraines. And whether it's a vicious cycle of stress, but there's also a genetic component of it, and you are more susceptible to it. And PTSD comes into it. So some of my case studies had sexual trauma and migraines all through their childhood, and they weren't released of their migraines until they came to terms with the sexual trauma. So even though I don't specialize in PTSD, a lot of my clients have come from that trauma base, and the healing and the holistic healing and the mind-body connection works together with helping them with their migraines.
Wow. You know what I just realized with working with fertility clients, because I'm a fertility coach as well, many of them have the work-related stress. So I tell them you don't need to overwork, and as soon as they take some time off and get and be more relaxed, suddenly they get pregnant. And that's so interesting to see. Is not only in pregnancy, in many chronic disease and chronic pain that happen. I'm sure Sarah has the same experience with her patient, because I talk to so many acupuncturists, and they always talk to the patient, how much work do you do? Are you happy with your work,
Yeah. So in my field, people come to me with their ailments and what they want to work on. And fertility is one of those things. And they think that there's maybe something wrong with them, or they're deficient in something. And usually the biggest thing is just calming the nervous system down. It's the stress of trying so hard, and believing that you are unwell or that you need to be fixed. And when we can address that and really just calm the nervous system down and get them out of the fight or flight, then the body can get back into balance. And when the body is in balance, then it's going to be working properly. So
Yes, exactly. And Jeannine also, I remember in her last talk, she talked about this so many times, how you can get triggers and overcome triggers. And the pocket you talk about
The
had
pocket guide, yeah.
the pocket guide had a great different, like you had some instruction when this happened to you, when you have lots of stress, especially when you have work related stress, what you have to do. Because these are the time you get triggered, right? Because you're tired, you're exhausted, and suddenly you get so angry, and then all the signs come back to you.
Well, something that I wished I had when I was recovering from my 25 years of PTSD was some sort of cheat sheet, pocket guide, something that would help me. And I felt like that's what I wanted to give back to anyone who's had or been in a triggered state, is a step-by-step process that will, one, get you out of the state, and then if and when you're ready, go into the deeper aspect of it to heal it. So it does take courage. We have to be willing to turn around and look at what are we actually triggered by, because if we've had trauma, our mindset might be that we are perceiving trauma in situations that aren't actually creating danger for us, but they're triggering that danger or fight, flight, freeze response. So being able to stop is step one, and don't make any decisions, no major life-changing decisions. Because if you make a decision from a triggered state, chances are you might be taking your life in a direction that you don't want it to go. Then we've got to catch our breath. Why? Because wherever the breath goes, the mind follows. So we've got to take some, I don't say deep diaphragmatic breathing right away, because if you've ever been triggered, telling somebody to take a deep breath can almost piss them off in a way. So I say, let's catch the breath, do 2 quick inhales and then an exhale until you can finally get to that place where you can breathe. And then step 2 is to do a locational, get the eyes moving so you're not frozen. Find 3 things that are alive. So like what Dr. Manon was saying was, bringing more consciousness to the situation. So find something that's alive, because that has consciousness right there, a plant, your cup of water, the sunshine, things like that. And then when you're ready to finally go deeper, then there's a way to look at, well, what is it that you're actually afraid of? So you've got to have that mind-body connection, connect with your breath. Where do you feel triggered? So one of the chapters in my book is called, Is Your Big Toe Triggered? It's designed, the title is designed in such a way to get you out of your mind. Because when you're triggered, you feel like you are completely triggered. So if you ask yourself, well, is that true? Is my big toe triggered? Well, no. And then you start asking different body parts until you get to that body part. Like, for example, Dr. Manon's knees, that was her trigger. And that was clearly speaking. So once you can figure out where do you feel triggered, then we can go deeper. And that's where I apply this adhere process I created, where we're now exploring what's the story that's happening behind that. And then once you know the story, you've discovered what's happening, then you can come in. And I usually, will recommend that you try to get big, because we are the healers. And the more people can connect with that, knowing that they have everything they need within them, we are just the facilitators helping to awaken that. So you get big so that you can see from a 360-degree view what is happening in that story. So in Dr. Manon's case, she could see the incident that happened. And so if her and I were working together, I would have had her come in maybe as her own guardian, to give her comfort, to help her understand what's happening so that she felt safe, help her move. And that would be part of the healing process. But again, it's all happening from her, within her. So it's very empowering when a client or a patient realizes, wow, I'm doing all of this. We're just the facilitators for our clients. And then once the healing happens, then you have to integrate with that part of you that was essentially disconnected, having that trauma trigger time loop. And then once that's healed and you become integrated, and I usually will have some sort of visual where you imagine the two of you becoming one, your guardian self and the part of you that's had this trauma. And then once you become integrated, there's more of you available. Well, now you have to relate with yourself differently. So you have to be open to the fact that you may behave differently. You may want different things. And then people around you need to adjust too.
Yeah.
So giving yourself the time and space to heal.
Beautiful. Manon, do you want to add something to her? And because she talked about you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And that's I love how you make the point that it's you yourself that heals, right? So because of my background, I could be me seeing me, but that is sometimes the part that needs coaching and calming and consciousness, saying, this is good. Your body can only do what it's ready to do when it's ready to do it. And why I know this is because it's happening. And then we go with that. So I love the empowering aspect that you bring up, because that's exactly true.
Thanks. No,
Thank you.
I also know what you talk about, especially in your book, Jeannine. You talk about your childhood trauma, and I'm gonna just mentioned it, that when you are hit by trauma, especially in your childhood, they are not easy to be recovered because there are lots of layers under it. And Deborah also here, I'm going to talk about childhood trauma. What happened when, first of all, you don't know you had childhood trauma, right? And you think that everything is so natural, it should be like that, your parents should treat you like that, right? But in some point when you are adult and you're looking at your past life, you just think, oh, there was something wrong, maybe something should be changed, and maybe I have to heal these layers in mine,
Yes.
right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. As you say, I work with a lot of people who've had childhood trauma, and they don't realize it a lot of times. They don't realize the impact that it has made on their lives. Because when something happens to a person between ages about 0 and 7, it sets up a lot of beliefs that then set up these other patterns that permeate forever until those patterns are shifted. But it's not only that something has happened to us, but it's also our interpretation of what has happened. And I'll give you an example because I think it really underscores this point. There's a lady that came to me who could barely speak in front of people or even with her friends. It was really sad and very depressing for her. She had very few close relationships because she just couldn't do it. She had, I think, what most people would call almost a social anxiety. And she just got so nervous and she felt so uninteresting. And that's what finally came out. And we finally discovered that she had gone on a road trip with her parents when she was young. And they probably just didn't know how to entertain a small child. We don't really know. But her impression was that they didn't really talk to her. They talked to each other, but they didn't talk to her very much. So here's one of the aspects that's so important, because she came to the conclusion, which then became a belief, that she must be uninteresting as a person. Her parents never said that, but that was her new belief. So the first few times that I talked to her, when I talked to her, there was a long pause after everything I said. And finally, I realized she was trying to say everything right. She was trying to be interesting. and it was very difficult for her and very anxiety producing. Now, here's the thing. We changed that belief for her. And she now no longer has that trepidation when she's with her friends. She has a lot more friends because she has the belief that she's interesting and it's easy for her to talk to people. She also went out and she was starting a business, and she went out and did one webinar and then another webinar. Quite easy.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So she no longer has those triggers of anxiety because that whole belief was
Beautiful.
changed. Yeah. And also, of course, we worked on some of the emotions, the attending emotions also. But that's how it works
Yeah, thank
for
you.
my clients. Yeah.
You know, I know Linda has a point as well here, because she has a story of ADHD of herself, and I'm really amazed looking at her because she's she's a high achiever. She's very talented. She's highly educated, And that's interesting how she look at ADHD, and she talk about it. We talk about it a few times, but I really, really want to talk about this time as well, because it's really connected to what we're talking.
Yeah, thank you, Pantia. That brings tears to my eyes just hearing you say that, you know, having some acknowledgement, because it's very important for all of us as humans to be recognized and acknowledged for who we are, and not for who other people expect us to be. So thank you for that. On top of what Deborah and Jeannine and Manon were talking about with triggers and you know, where these behaviors come from, my view very much on ADHD is that it is environmental focused. It's derived from extreme stress in early parenting. And as we know through DNA, we have only, as Bruce Lipton talks about, only 2% of our DNA is chromosome. So whether our eyes are blue, our hair's black, is all determined only by 2% of our DNA. The other 98% is what researchers used to call rubbish DNA. But that's actually non-coded DNA, which is our behavior and our personality traits. So we have this within us. However, epigenetics, which is what happens externally on top of that gene and the DNA, is what impacts on us. And so when I talk about ADHD, to me, I see it as the impact of early childhood from a very stressful situation in early parenting. And it's, to me, a hidden trauma that so many people, there's 6.1 million children diagnosed in 2016 with ADHD in the US. And, you know, when we look at those figures, it really comes back to show, you know, it not necessarily our DNA or genetic makeup that's passed on, it's the environment that we're living in. We're living in more stressful times, the economic strains that people are living in. And so we have parents, and it's not their fault, and it's not the infant's fault, but it's very stressful environments. And when parents are under stress, they're triggered by their own past traumas that may be unresolved, and they react rather than respond. And so the needs of the infant are not necessarily met to the extent that the infant needs. So in many ways, that disconnect and dysregulation of the adult proposes or projects onto the child that I'm not valued, I'm not important, or you know, I'm not seen or heard. So the infant then ends up being learning strategies. How do I survive? I pick up a strategy to survive. So if the parent is deficient of attention on the child through a mental health condition or their own trauma or just their busy life, and just consistently being on a phone or listening and talking to other people rather than, as Deborah mentioned, attending to the child in the room or the infant in the room, poses that downlaying of our new genetic makeup and strategies that the infant has to pick up in order to survive, which is being hyperactive in some ways or distancing altogether and not being able to focus because it's too intense coming from a parent's facial expression on the child or intense verbal communication.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. As the last part, first of all, I want all of you. I have two parts left, actually. First of all, I want all of you give me one hopeful sentence to whoever have some issues with the body and mind, and how you can strengthen them to be more powerful. Who want to go first? Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to share my subtitle with everyone, and that is Discovering Your Courage for Change and Commitment to Yourself.
Beautiful. Manon?
I think I'm going to steal one because it's come to mind, but you are not broken. And this is, it's actually the title. I use that in my TEDx talk, but it's actually the title of a book by Chris Duncan, which is quite amazing. So you're not broken.
And can I just read this sentence again because I love it? I can support myself by taking the time to reconnect to the sunrise and the moon and to stand on the grass and feel the earth. I love this sentence because it shows the real aspect of self-care. No matter what's happening to us, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we are not the first priority, we can't heal, right? Now, who is going to go first next? Linda?
I'm just thinking there's so many. I think one that comes to mind is that we learn what we live.
Yeah.
So I think it's very powerful for us to be conscious of what is happening around us and to other people through it.
Thanks. Okay, next. Sarah, maybe?
Sure. So I would say belief shifts biology. So really getting in touch with what your beliefs are, not your family's, not your friends, but what you believe, for you to basically shift your entire reality.
Yeah, belief can change biology. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gwyn?
Oh, I'm like Linda. There's just so many. I believe that if you are defiantly committed to the process of clarity and cleansing and courage to go through your process, whether it's migraines or ADHD or sexual trauma, that you can get reacquainted with your past vision of your best future self. In other words, you can become what you used to want to be when you grew up.
Wow. It's not really easy to repeat it, but it was interesting.
I don't know if I can repeat it.
So, Deborah? Hang on. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I would have to agree with all of you. And yes, I believe that belief is where it's at, changing beliefs. And I wanted to sort of I'm combining a Toyota slogan with my own. Okay. Start your impossible today. Your brain can do anything. I've overcome something that you're not supposed to be able to overcome. I know the rest of you have as well. You can do anything. The only thing that stops you is your own beliefs.
Yeah, start your impossible. I love it. I love it. Thanks. So, as last part, this is the second last part. I want those co-authors give me some feedback on journaling, because I found journaling is so amazing for PTSD recovery. I want you to give me some feedback first. How was it to be inside the book for PTSD Compass as you wrote this as well and you contribute in the book? And second, how was journaling in you? I mean, how do you think about journaling and how it can help PTSD recovery? I'm gonna start with Jeannine because she is a co-author on my book as well.
So I would like to say actually that the journaling piece, I don't do much writing. I actually prefer to journal through video. The reason I prefer this is because it will allow me to go back and look at myself through a different lens. So if I'm having a moment where I need to express, I will just open up the video app, take a video, and then I'll put it down. I'll wait a little bit, maybe have a cup of tea, come back, and then I can see maybe it's that little traumatized version that I haven't healed yet, speaking through this grown woman's eyes, but I'm seeing her now versus I couldn't necessarily see her before. So that's actually the type of journaling that I prefer.
Love that.
As far as contributing to the book, I was just honored to be a part of it, to reach more and more people. There's so many of us in the healing community, and we all have such an inspirational message. So the fact that we've all joined our intention together for the sake of helping others, it's just an honor to be a part of this community.
Thank you. Manon?
Sorry, that unmute button. Yeah, so I mean, journaling has played a big role in my my recoveries personally, especially if I don't edit anything, and then I go back. And I know when I ended up with stage 4 cancer, I actually wrote about it and was not aware that I had written it, which is incredible. I wrote, "This is the day my cancer starts." Talk about putting out there a strange thought. But it was like, there's a big part of me that knew that the relationship I was in and what I was allowing was pivotal. But my conscious mind didn't catch that. But my unconscious did. I knew, right? So I think it's really great. Right now, I'm not doing any, but I'm doing more on oral process. So that's that. And as far as being in your book, I'm thrilled. I'm really happy to share, and I love, there's so many ways for people to heal. So I just get really excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here for the second time. She's always supporting me, and I love that. And Deborah, you are also, do you want to add something to about journaling? I know childhood trauma is painful, but there are a lot of ways. One of them is journaling, how you can heal. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm very honored to be in your book too. Yeah, like you say, childhood trauma is so painful, and when you're thinking about it inside of you, unless you've gotten through everything that is so disturbing, it really is bothersome. There was something about writing it down that I thought I was surprised. I would look at that and say, "Oh, that's so sad." But it was like it removed me from that childhood trauma enough that I could experience those emotions even at a much different level without so much pain. And so putting something in, the second or third position, not first position, can actually be very helpful and very healing. And so I found it very surprisingly healing in that way. And I so appreciate the opportunity that you've given me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Actually, because journaling really worked for me. And I cried the whole book. The first book I wrote, that was the first book I wrote, Rules of Change for the Better. And I cried when I wrote it. And it took me 2-3 years to write the first book. And now it's easier to write, but in the beginning was difficult. And then because it's the healing process, it's not easy to write about your inner trauma.
Mhm.
And when you release it and when you see it on the paper, of course you cry because you had this trauma, and that was the thing. You had a process to recover, and as Jeannine says, this is you now in the mirror, and this is what you see on the video, your today and your present. The one had trauma was the one who doesn't right now. So it's a great comparison when you see yourself now as somebody who helps others recover from trauma, from somebody who had this trauma and had her own challenges. Yeah, beautiful. And Linda also, I can see Linda, she actually wrote a chapter as well. So thank you so much for your support, Linda. Please tell me about journaling and how was your experience about journaling?
Yeah.
For my book.
Thank you, Pentia. And I love what you just said about writing the book and the challenges that you had with your first book. I'm writing a book, well, I have been for the last 2 years, and through unexpected COVID and family relationship difficulties back home with my mum being ill, just took me away, and I realized that I was actually experiencing grief, anticipatory grief, and a lot of unresolved issues from my past. However, recently I've been able to write about an experience I had in Germany only just last month. And Pentia, thank you, because that's
yes, I encourage you. Please write it.
It's an amazing journey.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that journey of myself connecting with my subconscious and my conscious awareness over 10 days back into my own pregnancy and birth experience and early parenting just awakened me to how these patterns that started from the very beginning are just playing out throughout my life. And I realized that my previous marriage breakup was actually so traumatic for me. And there was a connection between what happened in my birth experience and what happened with the disconnect in that relationship. So it was so powerful for me to sit down and journal after every session and just had this awakening of all these connections and awareness and how I could help myself now through that. And it's always helpful for clients, it's always something that's recognized and acknowledged for clients to and promoted for them to do. So it's a beautiful way of healing, I believe.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.
So do you, Gwyn and Sarah, I know you haven't been in my book yet, but if you have any experience about journaling, please share. I don't know, which one do you want? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm actually writing my book now. I've started 2, but I'm finishing the one on migraines. And one thing that has really helped is morning pages of writing mindlessly. Just write and write and write. And if you can't think of what to write, you write, I can't think of what to write. And you keep going until you release the creativity. So the journaling has really helped release some creativity. And then I find myself running over to my computer and starting writing actual stuff for my book. So the journaling helps me release creativity, and then it helps me flow better when I'm writing my book.
Yeah, releasing creativity. I like that, because creativity means you see something that it was not there. So you create something from the scratch. Book is like that. Like, oh, this is finally published. This is me. And when you look at those pages, interesting is when I listen to my audio from somebody actually had my audio done. And then I just listen to it and I cry. And that's so amazing. Like this process of journaling for whoever who is writing and want to start writing, especially for PTSD recovery. You see, all of us been there almost, and we really enjoy that. I'm not sure about Sarah, if she want to share something or.
Sure. I mean, I'm a big advocate for journaling, and I tell my clients I'm all about giving my clients tools so they can be their own healer. That's the whole point. We are magnificent healing machines if we allow ourselves to do it. And I think journaling is a great tool for that. Just getting the things, the bombarded thoughts that we're constantly having in our minds and these feelings, and putting them on paper and making it tangible is really powerful. I believe that you have to feel it to heal it. So you are allowing yourself to kind of get curious about it. And even, I'm a big believer too in ceremonial stuff. So, writing something on a piece of paper that no longer serves you, and burning it and saying, this is no longer a part of me, and I release it. So.
Yeah, thank you. That was beautiful. Yes, I like it. I see, because I'm doing journaling since I was in school, elementary school. I was 8-year-old when I started writing poems, and I love writing. I actually kept all of my writings and memories from my childhood. It's so interesting when you just look back and you see, oh, I was thinking about this stuff when I was like 8-year-old, 10-year-old. That's so interesting. Yeah, thank you for being here, everybody. And I just want to add this to all. We have a summit tomorrow as well. We're going to talk about domestic violence and abusive relationship. If you have this experience, or you want to recover from it, or you know somebody who want to recover, please ask them to join the summit. You can see the link on the bottom. And my book, or book, as I say, is there already, PTSD Compass. We are #1 bestseller in different categories in US and Canada. Still, we are promoting. So by end of Thursday, we are doing the promotion. So if you want to go and grab your copy, go ahead. And if you have some story to share, please connect with me. I really want to hear back from you, because it's beautiful to share stories, even on my podcast, on my shows, on my book. I love to have you there. Thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
Please subscribe to Pontal Calhoun Transition channel to get the latest interviews, and order my book, PTSD Compass, through Amazon. How to confront PTSD and navigate trauma to triumph.